unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 billion kalpas. Having to see, listen to remember, and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the incontinent words.
Yesterday, I was watching the as they brought in the astronauts. Excuse me, can you move this? Maybe we put it back there somewhere. This.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. So I can see. Mhm. Great, thank you. Watching the landing of astronauts. And then I was listening to other astronauts who'd gone up in space, and they were talking about their experience. And there was one astronaut on, and he said, you know, while they're smiling and they're waving, you have no idea what they are going through right now. And he said that, you know, how they feel sick while they're, you know, just coming back to Earth. They feel sick, you know, the stomach is upset. But he said the biggest, when we come out of that weightlessness and we experience the repercussions of gravity, that's what's so hard. He said we grow 2 inches while we're in space, and then when we come back over 4 months, we shrink back 2 inches because the pull of gravity starts contracting us again. And he said, you can't even imagine the experience of weightlessness and then coming back under, you know, under the gravitational pull. It has its own kind of pressure, its own, and suddenly like, because up there's no such thing as pressure points. There's nothing that impedes you. And I was thinking that how, if we could grasp this, we could kind of understand what it is to be in Nirvana as opposed to Samsara. Remember, we were talking last week that Nirvana is no place other than where we are right here, right now. But because we think it's an other shore in terms of form, we think we have to go somewhere to enter it. And so we have to shift our notion of what we think samsara is, because it is a state, and what nirvana is, and it is a state. But in our minds, even though we might even say it's a state, in our minds, we're still thinking locale and that it's a place. And so it impedes us, it keeps us from entering into the presence of its energy and what it lends or what it affords us, and we can't know it. And that is what suffering is. You know, we define suffering from a perspective of physical discomfort. But if you really think about the suffering, it is a mental condition. And so Buddhas and Bodhisattvas also have a certain mentality. And we were working on a song today. And let me see, which song was that? Oh, no, it's my, you know, walk and talk like angels talk, you know. And basically the song was saying, we live out the experiences we live out because of the way we walk and talk in this world. But if we walked and talked the way they did, we would not experience the things that we experience. It does not mean that something is not going on, but the difference would be whether we were in Samsara in our mind or whether we were in Nirvana. And so so we have to make a shift. And the good thing about this is that no shift is it's not a immediate thing. Like it might be one last P that drops in and bang, I get it. But it has been coming gradually. So we should recognize that this is a gradual path to realization, but the actuality of it is always present. Actually, it's always present. The realization takes time to catch up with the actuality of it. So I'd always wondered what was the difference between actualization and realization. And depending on who you ask, you could have there can be different definitions. But just now I got the definition that to actualize something is, for something to be actualized, it's what it is. But for something to be realized is the time it takes your understanding to catch up with what's actually present, you know. And so I'm not worried about actualization anymore. It's here now. I'm not reaching for something. I'm trying to gradually recognize the presence of it right here and right here and right now. My thinking started with the astronauts because I know, to me, this life is like death. And what's coming for me in death is like life. And some days I'm closer to the death that I call life, or I'm experiencing as moving towards life, than other days. Some days I'm enjoying being here, and maybe some feelings I have are like, I feel some sense of regret, because I'm enjoying something or want to finish something, But some days I'm like, oh, another day in Samsara, like, because when I have that mindset of Pannavati fading away, the pressure points are off. I don't feel the weight. The breath is not so labored, it's a no thingness is what I'm saying. This is a thing, but it's a no thingness that I get a glimpse of, the actual no thingness. And so the Buddha lets us know that this is, when we're getting it like this, that we're entering into what's called the second phase principles. We're not getting towards the end. We're getting toward second phase principles. Just think of second grade. Second phase principles. So in section 15, he talked, and 14 and 13, after a while, when you start looking back at it, he's saying the same thing over and over. Sometimes it's a little bit different. Sometimes it's not any different at all. He's just telling a different story with it. So you see a different side of it because the story, or the analogy is different, and that's what expands our capacity to maybe look at something in a different way. He might be just saying it in the same old way, but when he tags it to a different story, it's like, oh, we're just hearing it for the first time, or we're just seeing it. But he said, don't get upset because I'm repeating. He said, because I'm inculcating your mind. He said, I'm doing it. I'm inculcating your mind. It's no way for you not to ultimately get it because I am shifting your mind, and it might take you time to catch up. But that's the good news about it all, is that without realizing it, maybe we are catching up with what is actually so. So if I can rest in that, if I can find some rest in that, I won't thwart the perfect work that's being done with my input. The hardest part of growth is keeping our own input out of it, you know, especially if we have a realization of something. When we catch a hold of something, we're often running with it. You know, it's rarely that we have a realization that we can like just sit and be with it or let it be what it is, which is what he says. The minute we have one, we're often running. We're often running. And that's because that's what the ordinary mind does. And we have not reached Samsara Buddha state yet. That was the state of Shakyamuni Buddha, the ultimate Samsara Buddha, you know, like perfectly enlightened. You know, but we can get a little bit enlightened. We can get a little bit enlightened around a little bit, you know. But when we take that now, like when I was living in a Chinese monastery, there were two words. I might have them backwards now, but it's okay because no Chinese in here. And I only learned Om-La, I think it was Om-La and Dom-La. It was been 20 years now. I haven't had to use it with any Chinese master. But one meant I understand. The other meant I really understand now. And so that was the only, you know, two phrases I learned the whole time I was there. I mean, because there's hardly anything else you could say. It's like, yes, master, I understand, you know, and then I really understand. And so when we move from I understand to now I really understand, we think we have really understood. But we're just taking the next partial level of what could be considered the ultimate understanding. But every time we have that aha moment, or we penetrate something, we think I didn't understand before, but now I understand. And it says that that's where we, if we're not careful, that's what can really encourage us, is that I understand better. Maybe if we added better to it, you know, instead of I understand. Because the minute we think we understand, that's when we've cut off the capacity for a time to go further. You have to wear out that understanding before you can go to a deeper understanding. And we cut that off by thinking, I got that part now, I got that part. And we start trying to work from the place of ultimate understanding when we only got the second grade understanding. And so this is called the second phase principles, and that I want to talk about it. And the second phase principles is around understanding reality versus illusion. That's the second phase, okay? We think like that's the ultimate when we understand the difference between illusion and reality. Like, what else is there? That's second phase principle. And so I want to read some of this. It says, if you think you have any attainment, then you have not yet understood that it is in reality just an illusion. If you think you have any attainment, then you have not yet understood that it is in reality just an illusion. That is, we should know this principle that what is understood or attained even is empty. We should understand that truth of emptiness. So as long as you think you have any attainment, as long as you think you know and have attained the state of emptiness, then there's no reality that you have realized. Moreover, what you have realized are illusions, and illusions that truly exist, but they are still illusions. And this is due to the effect of the obscuration of non-ultimate realization. Once you give rise to the notion, I have understood the ultimate meaning of this, then the attainment of that understanding is just an illusion. This is very important. This is a very subtle matter. The Diamond Sutra tells us everything that has form is empty and false. And that confirms the absolute truth imparted by the Bodhisattva, Kuan Yin. Everything that has form is empty and false, is perfect and complete. There's no second path to take. It includes all phenomena. You may say, hey, when I suddenly attained accomplishment, I was sitting next to the Tathagata Buddha. That is also empty, is false and illusory manifestation. There is no manifest form that is real. There is only the reality of form that is unobtainable. At this point, you disciples might be thinking, so after learning from Buddha for so long, everything eventually comes down to being illusory, empty, and false? No. When you thoroughly realize the perfect Dhammakaya, you will naturally have Nirmanakayas. When you thoroughly realize the perfect Dhammakaya, you will naturally have Nirmanakayas. After you have Nirmanakayas, then you will have Sambhogakaya, or the bliss body. That means having a specific body for enjoyment. If one is attached to what is illusory, before one realizes the perfect Dhammakaya state, then one will descend. All forms in the world that living beings see, both inside and outside the physical body, with its sense bases, are like sky flowers, fire wheels made of a revolving flare, like shadows, illusions, and bubbles. They are all impermanent and illusory, because the dark karma and the white karma of living beings accumulated. What's dark and white?
Negative and positive.
Yeah, okay. So that means good things and bad things, because we think like karma is like all the bad things that happen to me, but it's not just bad things, it's good things too. It's like whatever things, are all karma. Because the dark and white karma of living beings accumulated since beginningless time has covered our original appearance that is formless and truly empty, we are attached to what is false, thinking it is true. Whether it be you disciples or other living beings or all beings with sensation and consciousness, hindrances that cover and obscure are caused by the many delusion-based actions in the form of good deeds and bad deeds done since beginningless time. Having been created, such hindrances cover and obscure one's beginningless, formless, and true empty original appearance. Any good deed or any bad deed plants the seeds of cause and effect, or karma. Such karma is the karma of action. So boy, so we're thinking now, I get it. I'm a good person, I am. I'm thinking about what I want to do, or what I want to do to help, or whenever these thoughts come, like it was like the one, what was the nursery rhyme? He stuck in his thumb and he pulled out a plum and he said, "What a good boy am I." And so we're thinking, first it's don't do bad deeds, do good deeds. And then we end with good. There's bad and there's good. But it says you got to get beyond good deeds because you haven't really understood this this underlying empty nature that that is to be realized. And so we're stuck now with thinking about good deeds. So we're berating ourselves when we do, something that we uh, feel within ourselves is not the right thing to do. And we rejoice when we do something that we feel it is. If we don't rejoice, we think you should rejoice in it. You should be happy that I did it. You know, I mean, that's how we really are. Even if we don't say it, just if you don't say it, I might be a little bit upset. Did you just see what I just did? Did you, And so it's these lingering seeds that are there attached to bad deeds, but also, and maybe at some stage, even more attached to good deeds. And he said that's going to derail you. The karmic hindrances produced by the karma of action cover our original appearance. Now we're starting to see that it's not in deeds at all, even though deeds will be done. But when we're thinking of them as good deeds, bad deeds, when we're thinking of them as harmful or helpful, when we're thinking of it at all, we are ordinary people. We are not moving towards the mind state of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And here's the thing, you can't go from 0 to 100 like that. There has to be an acceleration, a propulsion that takes you to those. You have to get to the speed. You have to get caught up in it. And so we think it's like a flip. I was bad, now I'm good. I was thoughtless, now I'm thoughtful. But there's a progression that has to occur because it has to shift your whole mind away from there is anyone doing any deed. So when there's that phrase about there is a doer, no doer, no doer, no, N-O, no doer, yet nothing goes undone. This is the space that we have to get to. It's not that I am a doer of good deeds, but when we talk about no giver, no receiver, no gift, we like say it, no giver, no receiver, no giver, no receiver, no gift, no giver, no receiver, no gift. But we like just mouthing these words. But I'm talking about really, really the notion or the non-notion of a giver or anybody to receive anything or there even being any gift. So if we went through the course of the day, all of our actions, how many of those actions could you declare was in that realm of no giver, no receiver, and no gift? I can't think of any in my day. I know when I gave and I know when I didn't. I know when you gave and I know when you didn't. I know, there is the constant recognition. It might not be a hopping on it, like I'm counting who gave, who didn't, who, of time, of effort, of whatever. It's not like that. But what I'm saying is how subtle it is that we are still constantly aware, even though we talk these highfalutin words, we're constantly aware of our bad deeds and our good deeds. And it's good to be aware of your bad deeds because we can change them. But it's a stopgap. It's a stopgap to stop at our good deeds because it takes a doer to do good deeds, which is not the impetus of a bodhisattva, a Buddha to be. So at some place we have to get off the train of goodness. We have to don't misunderstand me, or you'll be in a worse shape. But we have to get off the train of doing good deeds. We have to get off the thoughts of 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 good deeds. We have to remember this is second phase now. Don't exercise this in first phase. Okay, but we do have to keep going to see what the end's gonna be, right? So we can't stay in first phase until we complete first phase. We need second phase to help propel us out of first phase. Okay, so yes, we should be doing good deeds, and we might have to consciously think about what that looks like, what that is, how to undertake it, or but there is a second phase, and this is what I wanted to encourage us about today, so that we just won't talk about emptiness, but recognize that it is an active phase of operation that we have to move from. That's beyond the words and the talk of it. I guess you say, well, then if I do, how will I know? How will I know? Well, that's a good question. You have to get in there to figure that out. You can't stop before you go into a place and say, well, I like it. How will I know I like it? Don't know. You got to go in. And so we have to shift in our understanding about this whole emptiness thing, because we're still thinking emptiness means nothingness, but it's not nothingness. It says because the dark karma and white karma of living beings accumulated since beginning this time has covered the original appearance that is false and truly empty, they are attached to what is false, thinking it to be true. Thus, they erroneously see the various illusory phenomena, whether it be you or other living beings, all beings with sensation and consciousness. Hindrances that cover and obscure are caused by the many delusion-based actions in the form of bad deeds and also good deeds done since beginningless time. Having been created, such hindrances cover and obscure one's beginningless, formless, and true empty original nature. Any good deed or bad deed, bad deed plants the seed of cause and effect. Such karma is the karma of action. So these karmic hindrances produced by the karma of action cover our own original appearance. Hence, we do not realize our five aggregates as being empty. And as a result, our six sense bases are unable to be equal such that everything is empty and non-existent. So we're then attached to forms and sounds and smells and tastes and touches and objects of mind, thought, making it even more impossible for us to clearly understand that the truth of marvelous existence is the principle of true emptiness. Thus, one's insight will not reach that level. It is even less possible to truly realize holiness. Therefore, the causes of this problem are karmic forces and karmic hindrances that arose due to beginningless avidya and were created by karmic forces that are good, that are bad, and that are neither good nor bad. Thus, living beings are attached to what is false, regarding it as true. They regard all of their delusive thoughts as being who they themselves are and as being very real. All forms come into being as illusions. Thus, one cannot pursue emptiness by denying form, nor can one pursue form by denying emptiness. Hence, emptiness and form do not differ from each other. And as we understand this truth, we know that although all forms exist and all phenomena exist, in reality, they are empty. That is, the phenomena exist, but actually the essence is empty. All of the forms of conditioned Dharma exist, but the real nature of the form of conditioned dharmas is the essence of the fundamental nature of the unconditioned. That is why it is said that reality or true form is inherently empty. All forms come into being as illusions. I'll now explain emptiness does not differ from form. All living beings are attached to what is false and deluded by all kinds of illusory and false appearances of form. All living beings are in the midst of attachment to the false. And once they are deluded by the various illusory and false appearances of form, they change and transform based on the law of cause and effect. This is very formidable. This is about the truth of emptiness not differing from form, which I will next completely expand. All living beings are attached to what are attached. Since at this time you do not understand the truth, of course you are attached to the false and the deluded by illusory phenomena all day long. You're drawn in by such illusions, including worldly matters, sustaining your life, food and clothes, work, reputation, status, money, and so on. Once drawn in by these, there is never a time to extract yourself. Even when sitting in meditation, all you do is indulge in wild thoughts, for your deluded consciousness is constantly active. Thus, you change and transform based on the law of cause and effect. And at the time of your death, you also transform in accord with that law of cause and effect. And your mind consciousness then falls into samsara. Among you disciples here, some have already changed or transformed based on the law of cause and effect. However, some truly have already begun to become liberated. As to some others, they have a certain degree already realized. They have to a certain degree already realized the way to enlightenment. You must not ignore the law of cause and effect. You must know that causality is a net from which no one can escape. You must attain liberation. You must realize the emptiness of the five aggregates, yet realize the truth that actually there is no aggregate to be realized as empty. Only then can you attain liberation and truly realize the perfect status of one with great enlightenment. I think if we were to just meditate on, contemplate on that one paragraph for a period of time, like for a week, just that. The Dharma has a way of cracking open our ignorance. You know, it has a way of wearing down the obscuration, rubbing out. uh, it just rubs it out. It's just not there. Sometimes with a sledgehammer, it cracks it open. And other times it just rubs. It just and then finally you're looking and it's not there. That thought that you had, that hindering thought, that I mean, it's it's like who thinks like that? You know, when I just did yesterday and might tomorrow, because it's not firmly fixed, it's not firmly realized. But I got a glimpse of it today, maybe because my day was going so good. No, I got a glimpse of it today, maybe because my day was so bad that I needed like I'm just done with the whole thing, and because of that. I can see beyond it because right now I'm not grasping after it. So you must know that causality is a net from which no one can escape. You must attain liberation. You must realize the emptiness of the five aggregates, yet realize the truth that actually there's no aggregate to be realized as empty. And only then can you attain liberation, true liberation, and truly realize the perfect status of one with great enlightenment. Your original appearance or your original nature or what you yourself inherently are does not change. You yourself are your original appearance. However, because you are confused and deluded in your search for truth, you do not know the absolute truth. And instead, you are engrossed in a state of delusion, clinging to the false and regarding it as real. And therefore, your karma is subject to the law of cause and effect. And that changes and transforms you, generating effects in accord with the Dharma underlying the conditions, generating effects in accord with the truth underlying the conditions. So let's say, for example, you hit on the head by a stick. The effect that immediately follows, which is generated from this extremely painful conditions-based karma, is your loud yell due to pain. So the effect is generated through differentiations by your state of mind, consciousness, and so on. The perception of all that is received and an effect is generated. It comes into play at all times and places and in very subtle ways. Even as we sit here, effects are constantly being generated in accord with the conditions, in accord with how I'm feeling today, and how alert I am, how much I'm listening, whether this is what I want to hear, whether it's, so everyone in this room, including myself, as I am hearing it, am having a meeting with this from a different perspective, according to our conditions-based or karma or our action that's tied into how we think. But if there was presently a realization of emptiness, there would not be a necessity for thinking, because we'd be in the actuality, of the moment rather than thinking about this. We're thinking right now. We're listening. We're trying to make sense of it. We're thinking. The mind is taking us off to our own examples and scenarios. And all this is going on. As long as thoughts arise in the mind, however, we will be in causality, cause and condition. As long as thoughts arise in the mind. So it's like as long as the refrigerator is not plugged in, then that's the empty nature of the refrigerator. But once we plug it in, turning on the power to charge it, then there will be a different kind of an effect. We turn on its power. The action to specifically turn the dial is called activating conditions. We human beings are like this. Our original nature, our essence, it is motionless. That doesn't mean not moving. It is motionless. The essence is motionless. Anything that's moving, my body, that's not my essence. This is where it starts. You got to listen carefully. Joy and I were coming over in the car this morning, and we were talking about this body and how much time we spend. This body takes up a lot of time. We got to feed it. We got to bathe it. We got to rest it. We got to, dress it. We got to, just when you think about it, we got to pluck eyebrows. We got to shave heads. We got to wash clothes. We got to, most of it is just of our day is really connected to the weight of our body. The body, to me, is like gravity. It's so much that it requires. He said our original nature, our essence, is motionless. All the forms are empty. However, once we activate conditions by the arising of thoughts in the mind, then there is activation. And with the activation of conditions are activated by I just said it, by the arising of thoughts in the mind. So now we're starting to see, motionless doesn't mean not moving. Doesn't mean not moving. But it is the activation of mind consciousness. And with mind consciousness, one descends into the state of an ordinary person. We're working our way through our rehearsals, but we got so much mind consciousness going on in our rehearsal that we only get 50% of what we need to do because everybody's got an opinion. We think this, we think that, we want to stop this, we want to try that, we want to, But if we get beyond that, I want to tell you, he talks about it. So what took you 5 hours, you can do in 5 minutes. What takes up the time is indulging the mind consciousness. It says, with mind consciousness, one descends into the state of an ordinary person. Effects will then be generated. Being ordinary people entails generating effects by way of differentiation. The state of a holy one is emptiness and tranquility, devoid of characteristics. A state where true emptiness is marvelous existence, a state that generates the effect of saving living beings. And so sometimes when we are in choir, and that's what all worldly Dharma is, Buddha Dharma, we can learn so much. We don't have to have a Dharma talk to learn it, And then sometimes the Dharma talk just explains what we had an opportunity to learn, or to see or to know. And so it's all good. And that's how our life can be used to accelerate our spiritual progress, even more so than, if we had to rely on a little bit of time that we actually in the Dharma hall, forget it, we'll never make it, But it's all that time that we spend outside the Dharma hall that will clarify for us if we can see it as the marvelous existence that clarifies emptiness. It says, what does this illustrate? It illustrates that Buddha Dharma principles and worldly principles are based on the same truths. It's not like one set of truths for worldly Dharma and one set for Buddha Dharma. In the beginning, we talked about worldly versus, dharmic. But you can't carry that all the way through. That's what you need. It's like having a stick shift car. And you have it in third gear, it's hard to get it moving. If you're trying to take off from third gear, fourth gear, you got to put it in first gear. But it's hard to travel a distance in first gear. You're gonna have to move it to second gear, or shift it to third gear if you go past second. You know, and so you got to have things in the right gear to get the right effect. So sometimes like we've got the right understanding, but the wrong application, you know. So it's not that the thing that's being understood is not understood, it's just the wrong time to use it or the wrong thing to relate it to. And so it takes more than just like knowing something, but it's knowing the when to use it, for who, how, why. It's so many other pieces that go into it. And what gets in the way of us knowing that, what blocks it is not having the stillness, because the uh, mind consciousness is running. I hope some of this is getting through, because the mind consciousness is running. So it doesn't mean that we don't do. We're doing, but without the input and the instructions and the direction of the mind consciousness. Some of this is rooted in habitual tendency, you know. And so we have to watch our habitual tendency. I know mine, you know. I know when I'm one step from ugly, you know. I know I know when I'm really feeling benevolent. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't know. It's how well I can cover it or conceal it, you know. But I know when I'm about to do the same thing again, to tell you the truth. For most times, I know, like in a second, I'm gonna jump off, you know. And then when I jump off, mine says, you didn't know you were gonna do this, Paniwadi. And it gives me a reprieve. But there is another part, because I'm awake to a certain essence in me. I don't know about you, but I'm awake to a certain essence in me now that knows when mind consciousness is about to jump. And then I have to make a choice right then and there. Who's going to reign supreme in that moment? Am I going to reinforce what I already know is my deluded mind? Or am I going to pull back on that rein and drop into stillness? This is where the work is done. This is where the real work is done. But it's also the transformative work, though. And where's it transforming us from and to? This shore to the other shore. But where's that other shore? It's no more than right here, where we are. The other shore is none other than this shore. There is nowhere to go. There is the stopping. All worldly Dharma is closely connected with, actually, it's inseparable from Buddha Dharma, whether there be any material object or any type of mind consciousness. If anybody wants to make a comment, you can. I won't say you can ask me a question, because I'm not going to be able to answer any question apart from what Buddha Master says here. And we got to do our unpacking, but I just want to let you know that, because there may be things in your mind that you might need to like reinforce as the light is coming on. And I want to give a space. I want to give a space for that. I mean, this was a conversation when I was studying this, it wasn't like just a talking to me, it was a conversation so that I could unpack myself. I could really see, bit by bit, and I got it more than before because there was this dialogue. So I know there's a dialogue going on within you, so you can just speak up. All worldly phenomena are closely connected with and inseparable from Buddha Dharma, whether it be any material object or any type of mind consciousness, such as a needle, a thread, a subject of learning, or matter that is studied. So that was the first time where some dialogue started. He talks about all worldly phenomena is closely connected to and inseparable, whether it be any material object. How does that relate to me? I'm not an object. So that was when my first question came in. So he's talking about something, I don't know what he's talking about right now. A thread, whether it be, but when he got to a subject of learning or matter that is studied, I was right there with that, because I'm always thinking, I always got some knowing mind chatter that can go on. But listen, he's throwing in something now. He gets into it much later. Where we page 2? He gets into it much further down the road. But he talks about a needle, a thread, a subject of learning, or matter that is studied. It is up to you to make use of analogies. It is up to you to make use. It is up to you to make use of analogies between worldly phenomena and Buddha Dharma. For instance, I just spoke about the matter of a refrigerator. Its original body or entity does not freeze things. If you want it to be freezing, if you want to be attached to its coldness, then you must activate the necessary conditions. Only then will it be charged with electricity and start to be freezing. For instance, I just spoke about the matter of a refrigerator. Its original body or entity does not freeze things. If you want it to be freezing, if you want to be attached to its coldness, attached meaning make use of, then you must activate necessary conditions. Only then will it be charged with electricity and start to be. Same is true for a light bulb. So now I'm getting some other idea in my head here that's not dependent upon my mind consciousness to save living beings. Light bulb. The original body or entity of light of the light bulb is motionless. If you want to light it up, you have to connect it to the wire and then turn a switch on. And then if that was connected to the source of electricity, then it would light up. It's the same principle. Hence, attachment produces conditions. As soon as you become attached, conditions arise. So it is also the same for a person. As soon as one becomes attached, as soon as thoughts move in the mind, leading to one's actions, involving the three karmas, once one is attached, then conditions are immediately produced. And having produced conditions, one must resolve those conditions. With the creation of conditions, there will be effects. If there are conditions, it means that there are causes. And experiencing fruits or effects that are produced means that one is an ordinary person. Such fruits or effects then have to be resolved. Thus, one is forever descends into the realms of samsara without ever attaining liberation. Yes.
Giovanni has a question.
Yeah.
Hey, Venerable.
Comment
Hey,
and
Venerable.
not
Hey, Venerable Pannavati, and hey, everyone. Just glad to be here. So, uh, with one resolving these things, just at a basic level, like what keeps coming up for me is because my mind is my mind just flies all over the place constantly, even while I'm just doing this. But a lot of it, I've been kind of like, well, that is where the different types of meditations are going to be really useful and helpful for you to be able to even get a glimpse of like what you are talking into right now, because my mind, like I said, my mind is just hopping all over the place, and I'm just curious, is this, am I making the correct connection of like, this is where using meditation as resolving these things that will allow me to get to the to a more expansive level, or yeah, just curious about that.
Okay, so what do you think meditation is? You think that's some kind of mojo? Some kind of, like quick source of giving you right understanding? Buddha Master constantly tells us that we got it all wrong in the West, and all this focus on meditation, but that mind is not a mind that knows anything. And so, and it goes from knowing nothing to just dropping into a dead zone. It's only by one having a basis of understanding that one can enter into meditation and activate or drop into their essence, which is the stillness. That's what the stillness of meditation that we're after, that we're seeking, that's none other than our own intrinsic nature. And so we're not going to be able to find that in meditation when we are resting in that. I hope that answers your question. So
Gives
that we have to learn something. We have to put something into practice to bring about a meditative state. It's not just sitting. I hope I can find this out. I'd like to read you the section. I read it. And he talks about the approach of meditation and emptying, being a way to empty the mind, and it's absolutely not a way that one empties the mind, because it doesn't take you towards the ultimate goal of it. It says there's no way to wait for form to vanish, for it to be empty. He says that's a low level understanding if you think that when I'm no longer thinking about something, then I'm in a state of stillness. The state of stillness has to underlie every appearance that rises up. So we can go a little distance with meditation, but without having the understanding and penetrating the truth of emptiness, we're not going to go far. It was like I was in a TM course at one time. We were talking a levitation course, and everybody around there thinking they're levitating because we're sitting, like, and our legs are locked and we're flopping. And that's all we were doing, just hopping around the floor like this, and we were calling that levitation, meditation. That was not levitation, meditation, and you get graded and you get a certificate and you pass too, Yeah, and they're just flipping all around and thinking like, and so that's what I'm saying. If we have not penetrated a certain to a certain understanding, then that meditation just takes us from not knowing the truth to just a dullness. And then when you just drop in nowhere, you just nowhere in your meditation. There's no realization in it. There's no actualization in it. There's no saving beings in it. There's nothing from my problems right now. So it takes hearing and hearing and hearing, not once a week. It takes remembering, reciting until one's mind is inculcated with what is true for one to start operating in what is true. So I hope that helps. Maybe I'll find that section while I'm reading today. But that's my thought about meditation as one who was a strong meditator for many years. So we should hear and reflect and allow the illumination of prajna to crack open understanding. We can understand something, and then when we do, that's when the settling and with it, its action, which is the monkey mind. Okay. Are you with me, Giovanni? Hello.
I am. I'm taking it in, and yes, I'm here.
Because we want, and what we want, what has been sold to us is a quick, a quick method, a quick action, or this will cure all your ills, or this will, settle that monkey mind. And I'm not saying it does not have some benefits, but all you gotta do is follow the people who've been meditators for 20, 30, 40 years. They're looking for something else. And not that there's, anything deficient in meditation. It's just gotta be right meditation, and we have sold it as a quick fix to still the monkey mind. But I tell you, prajna is what busts through illusion and stills the monkey mind, destroys the monkey mind. Mhm.
Just aware as I'm listening to this, how embedded my own tendency is to think mechanistically. And I thought I had made better headway at moving beyond that. But that was one of the appeals of meditation to me, was that it's a technique, and if I apply it, this result can be counted on at some point, sooner or later. And, when you talk about
Speak
prajna,
louder, Jim. I want to make sure they can
okay,
hear
when you
you.
talk about prajna being kind of what busts through the illusion of mechanistic thinking
Mm.
and other things, my mind goes immediately to, well, what's the method for accessing prajna? And it sounds like this is all kind of transmethodic.
I agree.
There's something about being allowing oneself to be immersed in the field of hearing the Dharma. I don't know, just hanging out attentively and with the intention of being shown, being available. I don't know how else to English it. But it's not mechanistic.
Yeah.
If that's like, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything's a nail.
Yeah, and it is absolutely that. It says all of us have come from different sects and have deeply studied both exoteric and esoteric schools of Buddhism. These are all Buddha Dharma within Buddhism. They were established as different sects or schools, but their origin is one and the same. We learned and practiced these Dharma methods before. After a great deal of time and effort, we did experience some beneficial effects. However, in the end, we're unable to manifest actual holy realization. Um,
In other places, though, it does sound like he talks about the value and necessity of meditation.
He does. All he's saying is if you're looking to meditation for the realization, you won't find it there. The meditation is actually, and we talk about method, it is really not the method, it is the result of right understanding that allows meditation to be accessed with applied and sustained thought. One enters into jhana. So it's not jhana that gives you a peaceful mind. It's like, but it's with applied and sustained thought. That's the right thoughts, applying the right thoughts and having a mind that sustains the right thoughts. He talks about it in the,
I'm just thinking of Mahamudra liberation, just talking about how that's the important part to sever attachment to self, or to like, to get away from that idea of self.
yes, and when does he introduce Mahamudra of liberation? Did he do it at the beginning of his teachings?
No, I'm not saying that.
No, no, it's the question I'm asking you.
No, I don't know when he introduced it.
No, it's until you have a basis and a foundation for something, until you've done some practice, until you have, know certain things, that's not even introduced. It's introduced at the right time when there is a mind that can begin to utilize, the instruction and the method. But to just bring people out, and our first method is we're gonna meditate. We just don't, you can't get it because you don't have a mind. I'm looking, for some reason, my notes. Oh, I understand what's wrong. Wow. Oh, we need an old book.
It seems to me that
Old book.
Yeah, there's one upstairs.
Can you get it for me real quick?
It seems to me that deep concentration in contemplation will lead one to experience essence, and that is the meditation.
Can you repeat?
That's hard.
Sister, never mind, I found it.
Deep concentration while contemplating, the two together deeply, can lead one to experiencing the meditation of essence.
Yes, yeah. I think that's more on the right, the right track. Because it says with applied and sustained thought. So first of all, you're thinking. When we go into meditation, our first instruction is
Stop thinking.
right.
Let go of covetousness and grief.
Yeah, so to be able to abandon covetousness and grief, how do you do that?
You gotta realize if you have any grief.
Well, you got to stop the mind from either going forward or backwards.
How you stop the mind? If you could stop the mind, you wouldn't need to be doing the meditation. You won't start the mind.
Well, you anchor it. You anchor it, whatever the object is.
What do you mean you anchor it? I know you're using the words. I'm just saying, what do you mean? And hold your thought. Don't forget it.
Is it object?
Yeah, like the supplied and sustained thought is the anchor, right? Like I understand what my take on this conversation is that what I hear you saying, and this is born of honestly a decade plus of wrong practice. We have to till the soil. We have to change the way that we think. We have to kind of take the weeds out, remove the obstructions. We have to be able to receive the vibration of truth at a deeper level. And then the seed of awakening that allows Praja to come in can be born. But no amount of like approaching meditation as a workout routine is going to do that.
That's correct.
But it occurs to me what Jim was saying is it's all of these things that we're doing. We're coming and listening, we're reading, we're contemplating, we're doing inquiry, we're engaging with each other to be reflected with or reflect to. I mean, there's all of those pieces that bring us to this. And then when we're able to sit, we're in a different place.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. His question though was specifically around meditation.
Right. So it's not just that.
Mhm.
Settling mind, the wild mind.
So, you know, if I looked at something or something came up and I understood that it comes up through causes and conditions, and I was then not disturbed by it, there would be nothing I have to settle.
It
Right.
also sounds like Giovanni could be confusing contemplation versus meditation.
Mm.
So like the breath, that's contemplation of the breath,
Mm-hmm.
which then could lead you to a natural state. So like a lot of the times we say this is meditation, but it's actually contemplation.
Mm. Or yeah, I mean, there's a big misunderstanding around, you know, if I were to stop like right now and we're going into a 15-minute meditation sit or something like that, you know, I could just easily drop in because my mind is resting in dharmic truth, you know, and that's what opens the doorway to tapping more into my original nature or essence, which is devoid of motion. So you can't really learn a technique that does it. It will do something. It may even mimic something, you know, but is it actually that? You know, even we start to define and it can move us closer to what the experience is. And that's why some people like it. They got to get their meditation fix, you know, and they got to get it at the center because they can't get it at home. You know, it's only at 905 Irving Street, you know, so I have to go there. And then when I done that, I feel so much better. And those are the ones who are Dharma teachers for 20 years and their own personal lives is a mess. You know, just honestly. No, honestly. No. So I am not, he says the meditation should be about 10% of our time, of total cultivation, our total cultivation time. You know, because either we're just sitting there wasting time or no, we get a habit of another tendency, habitual tendency, you know, and we have to do that to survive, like having our coffee to be able to get going. You know, it becomes a tendency, and then I can't get going without my coffee. I can't get going without my meditation fix. I can't get going, you know. So where we are right now in our studies, it might be difficult to appreciate what I'm talking about today, but we can't like just stay in the kindergarten forever, you know. So some of us, because there's some 5th graders here, there's some 10th graders, there's some 12th graders, and you have to hear something at your level that allows you to keep moving. So what's true at one time is not true for all time. It might be just for that one time. And that's what we have to keep in mind, or develop a tolerance for however we already understand it. Is there some different way to understand it that we can get more benefit? Like how long have you been meditating, Giovanni?
Me, I don't meditate that much. I was just curious, and I don't spend a lot of time during. I spend more reading, um, really working daily on reading the sutra, and morning meditate, just the ritual morning, the paramitas, the ten, like those type of things, and trying to like those things I focus much more on. I just, my mind is just, I like, sometimes I get frustrated by it because I'm doing something, and then a giraffe just runs across the plane, and I'm like, I don't need that right now. Like, and I think that is, so those are the things that I'm like, that frustrate me, but those are, and so I'm like, well, how can I work with that? And maybe I need to meditate a little more to just stop having rhinoceroses or everybody running across and being like, okay, I don't need this right now. That's how I'm putting it in.
Okay, stop. So I've got it. He says that when we are learning a lot, then the mind runs a lot. And that's a time that we need to do maybe less learning, more things, and sit and penetrate something that we have learned. And that's a time to sit in meditation, contemplating what we have learned, and don't take all of it, but just taking something until that finds its peace, in us, and takes us to a still point, not trying to get more, learn more, know more. And just take some little parts. And many times when I'm reading, I said, if we just stay with these 3 sentences for a week, just those, we could penetrate through to something, and we would touch an aspect of our original essence. So sometimes it's better not to keep looking for more information. In that sense, I guess you could call that a type, for lack of a better word, meditation has a broad range. And maybe the way that we define and understand and meet it could be different from a person who has not been doing it for 20 years. But just taking, I would suggest for you, just taking something that really meets a need that you have in your life when you read it, and say, oh, if I could just attain to that, how wonderful things would be. And just stay with that one thing. Just stay with that one thing. And then you will start to experience what the settling is all about, because it's settling into the truth of the nature of things. And that's not a thing that can be talked out, but it's a thing that can be experienced. So that would be my suggestion to you. I can just say that sitting there, they're either going to just drop into a dead state or sleep, one or the other, but you take some bit of Dharma that is meaningful to you, that you have an aspiration to really experience and realize in your life. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if this was operating in my life? And just sitting with that. It comforts you until it brings you the settledness and the peace that you need, just around that one little thing. Thing is, when you have success at one thing, then you can apply that to another thing and another thing and another thing, and now you got a method. But it needs to be a real thing, not a doing thing. And so I appreciate what Jim was saying, because we think that by so much following a technique, we're going to realize something, and it's just not really like that. It's like I can have all the attributes of the perfect mate and I can list them, but when you meet people, you know, it's more than your list. You know, you're gonna need more than your list. There's gonna have to be something, there is that factor there that is alive, that is real, and you can, and it's not so much about the list then. It's what's showing up in life for real, for real.
You're bringing more than the list accounts for.
Right, exactly,
And they won't meet your list.
right.
I honestly,
Well, even if I had two people and they did, and they met everything on the list, you know, there was another factor there.
Right.
In the living, just the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's so much wisdom in what you're saying, Pannavati, because honestly, one thing that I'm really working on that's at the forefront is just holding the space for a love that is beyond the first thought of wanting something different or angsting or whatever, and like just allowing myself to deepen into that in the place of it happening, right? That's very different from sitting there for 40 minutes thinking you're going to power yourself down. It's and then
Yeah.
you do, it's like playing a piano. You get that, you start to get that note, and then you can build a deeper composition. But without that thing that actually matters in the music of your life, none of it really matters.
Yeah, yeah. So this is when you start stepping into the reality of something. And in the beginning, we're thinking, we're using it, right? We're using our thinking capacity to try to understand this. And we know that whatever we've thought is gonna be probably not correct, you know, because we're using our ordinary thinking mind, you know, and it takes a realization of something to straighten out the language and the words, you know. But when we do that, we do gradually, I found the section that I wanted, but I still can't find the exact, it's all marked up in my copy, my old previous copy. But he talked about, I am inculcating your mind. He said, so don't be frustrated when I say the same thing over and over and over, you know, because until your mind like accepts this, you're not gonna have the results that you want. Until when your response is equal to the truth, then you're not gonna have the results of the truth. You're gonna have the results of delusion until your mind is in accord with the truth. And so that's what he's constantly telling us, you know, like you've got wrong concepts, you got wrong ideas, you have, and that's what's holding you back. It's nothing wrong with the true Dharma, the real Dharma, but if it's been tweaked in a way that is a little off, it's not gonna line up, and the experience you will have will be only equal to the level of truth that's in it, the level of the truth of the Dharma. So you can have a little bit of Dharma in something and you can say that's the truth. You can have a lot of Dharma in something, you can say that's the truth, but one is shallow and one is deep. And you're gonna have different consequences or outcomes based on whether it's shallow or deep. It's better to not have been in the meditation mill process because you don't have to unlearn erasers. You don't have to erase things that are already settled in your mind as this is the way it is. Or, oh, but it had some benefit. Did it have enough? You know, that's my question when something's had some benefit. Oh, I'm happy that something's had some benefit, but did it have enough? Didn't have enough for me. You know, so I'm looking to see what is it that I missed? What did I not get that brings it up 100 to 100%? That's how we investigate things. Yeah. So when the Dharma is adding something to our understanding, we have to be careful not to go back and cleave tight to something like that was already said that we got, that we understand, that was useful. But how can this that I'm getting right now be added to what I already understand to be useful? Otherwise, we backtrack and we cause people to fall back because we fall back into our known space. So sometimes just even in talking about something, it can be a right thing, but not the right time. Because it keeps us from getting the point that's trying to be made right now. Yes.
The analogy of the refrigerator and Rob's at the piano and stuff, what arose for me was, I used to teach swimming. And, the first thing is teaching floating. And if you have a mindset of, I can't float, that's not gonna work. And if you always think that you're separate from the water, you're not going to float. You have to relax and trust and realize the water is going to hold you. And you literally need to stop efforting and get to that relaxed state. And then you build on that to the strokes of swimming. And with that, but anyone, you can watch the difference in swimmers, and the elite swimmers don't effort at all. They barely can. They just naturally move into that state of flow. And for me, I try to recall that I must relax first and let go of my knowing.
That's a really good, a really good example. And I think that what he is really trying to get across for us here is on one hand, he's encouraging us to allow to create a space for the Dharma, like the water has buoyancy within its essence, and to allow that where instead we put the mind into it, and what the mind does is it creates condition according to it, according to where it is, and according to how it thinks. And he's saying it's the same way with this. No matter what I think about the water, it is what it is. And if I could just trust what it is, it has the capacity to sustain me. But when I get into my thinking and defending something that I've heard, something that I read, something that I've learned, and saying it is that, but I have not directly realized it, then it's not going to sustain me. And so it's better to go back to a little practice instead of a lot of practice that one can rely upon to come to know the buoyancy of the water, that it will actually hold you up. And this will make us not have so much of the me in it. That's what he's trying to get out of us. That this is me. All the efforting is me. And so we are our hindrance. The me part is the hindering part. And if we can learn that the water has its own buoyancy, you can't even you can't cancel that out. You can make it not work for you, but you can't cancel out its essence. It is what it is. And he's saying, and we have that empty nature. It's not that Pannavati is empty, that there is just emptiness, and just thinking on that and what the implications of that, even if we can't understand it completely, that there is an essence that is not Pannavati, and her thoughts and her habits and her views. It's not even a Pannavati, it's her experiences. There is something underlying that, and That's what's there, not Pannavati. Until we start chipping away at that. And if we take it in a wrong direction, we will never get there if we take it that Pannavati is empty. There is the emptiness, and the I is emptiness is what we're trying to, he's inculcating the mind about. Otherwise, we'll go around that loop forever and ever, talking about us being empty. It's not me being empty. There is emptiness at my essence. And when a condition is created, an I arises, or the sense of an I arises. That helps us to be more gentle with ourselves. I mean, really, when you penetrate it, it helps you. It's like running and ain't nobody chasing you. It's so crazy, but it helps us to be gentler with ourselves. It helps us to not be so thin-skinned, because it ain't even really about us. It helps us, to be able to overcome a matter, recover faster when we get thrown off. It, because we can see the silliness of it. It lets us know that we have more capacity than we think we have, because we here and there start to get it just a little bit, that I am not myself. That it's not a beginning conversation you can have, maybe the beginning conversation is I'm my bad self and I need to clean up my act if I want to get something. Buddha says that you at least have to be good people to even have it, for the Dharma to even ring your bell a little bit. It is it's not, when he talks about non-Buddhist teaching, he's not saying that they're bad teachings or that they're wicked or that they're evil. He's just saying that this is closer to the absolute truth, so that your elevator can go further up, but it's not a negative or ding against, other disciplines, even within Christianity, just if you really step into and penetrate something, you can understand the refuge, you can understand the boundless love, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing. But me being the recipient of it is not the same as me being the orchestrator of it. Not having the capacity to orchestrate it means that I need a savior. But when I have the capacity to save, then I don't need a savior. And so it's, that's all I'm saying. There's just different levels of things. And from time to time, we should examine what some of these levels are to know that they're more floors that we can step into. And okay, so I think I want to leave it there. I hope that it's been helpful to you. And again, what triggered me searching for something, or no, I didn't really search for it, I just opened up and it was there, was the astronauts landing and they having to come back and be under the force of gravity. So we have to be careful how we think. Yeah, we have to be careful how we act, but more importantly, be careful how we think. And it helped me and see how, when we discover something, how does it fit into my life personally? Because I have my own stuff to uproot. You have your own stuff to uproot. And sometimes I'll say something just to give you an example, and I'm going to be finished in 2 minutes, to give you an example of how to take it into your own life. And so I do a lot of No, when I'm asleep, or when I'm half the night, I'm not asleep, I'm just there. But there's something else that's here, I'm there, but that there is here. And it helped me to understand it when the astronaut was talking about the weight of being on Earth. Um, yeah, and it was very wonderful for me because I could put how I feel into what real life being here is like. And I can't expect anybody to understand like departure being something that one looks forward to, you know. Because going there in a little bit, you can't know the release from the weight of this world. And it's not just about things, it's the whole shebang. You know, it's 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 about the laws that's tied into it. It's about gravitational pull. It's, you know, um and being released from that so that this becomes more like death and that becomes more like life. But it's not anywhere other than right here, right here. Mm. So we're going through changes right now because some things, you know, like they're dead, but it's like that rocket when it takes off and it gives it that propulsion so it can take up, but then it runs out of fuel and that thing has to fall off. But we like to carry all of ours with us. And so it starts limiting how fast we can go and it starts limiting how high we can go. We have to let something fall off. You gotta lop them off so that we can go and get into orbit. Yeah. He says only this last thing, only this understanding will lead to ending sickly existence. So some of it is what you're looking for. You want like a happier life, you want a more peaceful life, then many of us want that. Some know already, no matter how much happier or peaceful it is, there's some realms that are more sublime than that. Some places of abiding, even here and now, that's more sublime than that. So we're looking for something else. So, you know, so it depends on what you're looking for. Yes, you could. Now, sometimes we think it's where we had been before, right? We get there like, oh, no, I can't go back to this. Right? I get it now. Yeah.
It strikes me that there's an analogy, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I was just reading Suka's mind. Don't take that in the wrong way. I don't mean it in that way.
No, it strikes me that, the astronauts are in the space station. That's an unsustainable state. So it's like kind of the Dharma, when we get into the back of the book where we shouldn't be or where we're not ready for, we can't really sustain, what we might encounter, a glimpse or an experience, we can't sustain it. So after a while, we start looking for something else, or we realize, so I don't know, it just seems there was an analogy there with space travel and, living on Earth. You can go there, you can't stay there, you still have to work things out here.
Right.
So it's kind of like cultivation versus meditation in a way.
But you see where he's taking us is to, like, we talk about the mind understanding something, or the mind responding to phenomena, right? Like we see something and our mind responds to that. He says, but the time will come if you master this, that phenomena will respond to the way your mind goes. They say that's the difference right there, whether, wanting to save living beings and can't save ourselves, or wanting to save living beings and absolutely can, because the very thought that arises is the action that saves, and so that's a whole different thing, and so our mind has to flip towards being receptive, being receptive to that, even if we only use it on a very elementary level, at least we're on the right bus. Yeah.
Through these merits, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death.